You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It is season 3. It is episode 55. Too little, too late for the Cubs. Now, Crawly, you have a question mark. Is this a question or is it a statement? We'll get to that in a minute. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook, or email us at flythew670@gmail.com. Again, the title of episode 55, Too Little, Too Late for the Cubs. That could be a question or that could be a statement. I guess you're going to find out which way Crawly and I are leaning as we go through this one. All right, Crawly. So all the way back to Friday, which seems quite a while ago after a busy 4th of July weekend and celebrating and grilling and chilling and drinking and cleaning, Justin Steele put in the type of performance that we've been waiting for all year long.
Yeah, when you take a look at what Justin Steele did, we've been talking about this for a while, about how that guy has pitched absolutely lights out, and for no reason other than just some, bad defense, untimely hitting, whatever you want to kind of call it, he ends up not having a win so far this season. So we were looking at this one and we said to ourselves, this has got to be it for Justin, right? And boy, did he not disappoint. For the first time in Justin's big league career, he pitched a complete game. Dustin, in 6 of the 9 innings, he sat down the Angels 1, 2, 3. The first inning, he gave up a walk. The Angels didn't have another base runner until the 4th inning with 2 outs. Seiya Suzuki dropped a relatively easy fly ball in right field that bounced out of his glove, kind of turned the glove sideways and it popped out. Dustin, this is the 3rd time I can remember Seiya dropping a ball in a Justin Steele start.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you picked up on that. I mean, now that you lay it out, I get it, but it didn't pop up. I didn't catch that as I was watching the game. I was listening to that one with Pat, was it Zach and Ron that afternoon, right?
Right.
On that one, I believe. And so they did not mention that specifically, but that is an interesting tidbit.
Yeah, so you remember the one he did? It was it ended up being the big Braves game last year that he dropped that critical ball, and that was pretty much the end of the Cubs' postseason chances. This year against the White Sox, and then he hit the grand slam for the redemption after that caused a bunch of runs to give up, all that stuff. And then this third one, do you think maybe it's in Seiya's head, like he's a little scared of screwing up? Because Justin's a fiery guy.
Yeah, he is a super fired up guy. I'm surprised, if things wouldn't have went the way they ended up going, as we're going to talk about, maybe things would have been a little different, right?
You remember how they wouldn't have Christopher Morel at third when Justin was pitching? I wonder if maybe Seiya just starts DHing every time Justin is pitching at this
well, and we may have a new third baseman for Justin Steele, like a personal third baseman, like we've had personal catchers before.
Yeah. Anyway, the only run Justin gave up was in the 5th inning, when in the 5th, 1 out, former Brewers farmhand Keston Hura singled. He would advance to second on a ground out and score on a Taylor Ward single. But the Angels would not have another base runner after the 5th inning. Dustin, even though the Cubs have played so bad, how about the Wrigley faithful, right? Bottom of the 9th inning, Justin's coming out to finish the game. You don't know if he is or isn't, what they have planned. They play his warm-up song, Johnny Cash's God's Gonna Cut You Down. And it feels like a playoff atmosphere.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, Justin pitched 9 innings, gave up 1 run on 2 hits, all in the 5th inning, 2 walks and 7 Ks. He was extremely efficient. He only needed 95 pitches to be able to finish that game. Obviously, probably the best start of his year. Other than Seiya Suzuki's error, the Cubs' defense behind him was phenomenal, especially Miles Mastrobuoni.
Yeah, absolutely spectacular. Yeah.
Yeah, he made 3 web gems that kept runners off base and prevented runs from scoring. In the 1st, he robbed Taylor Ward of extra bases on a diving play towards the line. In the 4th, after the fielding error by Suzuki, Steele walked the next batter, putting runners at 1st and 2nd, but then Zach Neto hit one to the left of Miles, who made a great play, throw to 2nd to get out of that inning. And then in the top of the 8th, he robbed Joe Adell by fielding a soft hit ball towards 3rd, makes a barehanded throw to 1st for the out. Kind of looks like the Ron Santo statue that Lucella did, right? That one of that kind of sidearm underhand flick over to 1st. And Steele said after the game that he would have named Miles Mastrobuoni the player of the game.
Yes, I saw him on the field afterwards. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and with Justin cruising on the offense gave him plenty of support. Bottom of the 1st, Cody Bellinger on base, Seiya Suzuki 2-run blast, put the Cubs up 2-0.
See,
In the
part of
third inning-
why everybody's kind of forgetting, except for you, about the drop ball was the 2-run home run, right? I mean, that goes
right,
so
right,
it
yeah.
kind of that one kind of washes that other part away.
And the same thing happened in the White Sox game. He had a grand slam, remember, after he dropped the ball. So in the third inning, Ian Happ continues to stay hot. He hits an RBI single to make it 3-0, scoring Michael Busch, who led off the inning with the walk. The same team of Busch and Happ scored again in the fifth when Busch led off the inning with a double. And once again, Ian Happ had a 2-out single to score Busch. The Cubs would score their final run with another 2-out run. This time it was Tomas Nido, 2-out double followed by Nico Horner, making it 5-1. So the Cubs scored 5 runs on 9 hits. 3 of the 5 runs came on 2-out hits. They were 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Everyone in the lineup, except for Dansby Swanson, had a hit. So the Cubs won a series opener for the first time since they beat the White Sox on June 4th in a 2-game series. That was about a month ago, Dustin.
And that was also the last time they won a series, so albeit a 2-game series. So we'll see if this would play out. Now, that was the good news of the weekend, right? Probably the best news of the weekend was the Justin Steele performance. So then we move into game number 2, and that had Kyle Hendricks on the mound, and this was probably the worst news of the weekend.
Yeah, if Friday showed you everything good about the 2024 Cubs, Saturday showed you everything bad about the 2024
great. That's a great
Cubs.
point. That's a great point.
You know, Kyle Hendricks experienced a back spasm on Friday that locked up his lower back and led to some tightness. He went through treatment and felt some improvement, so they decided to roll with it on Saturday. Maybe not such a great idea. He loaded the bases with no outs, got Willie Cahoon to strike out for the first out, but then he hit Logan O'Hoppe with a pitch to give the Angels a 1-0 lead. The inning could have been worse. With 1 out, Mickey Monick hit one to right. Seiya Suzuki caught it, and he made a great throw to Tomas Nido, who tagged Keston Hiura for an inning-ending double play. So after a drop ball the game before, nice to see Seiya make such a good defensive play. The Angels would again score in the second on a Keston Hiura single to make it 2-0. Kyle Hendricks would not come out in the third inning. He went 2 innings, 2 runs on 4 hits with 2 walks, 1 K, and he hit a batter. It just did not look good. I don't know why they just didn't go with a bullpen game if they thought Hendricks was going to have such bad back issues.
Well, especially after the fact, right? After the fact, Kyle admitted that his back was bothering him, but maybe he felt like he needed to go out there and do what he could for the team. But again, at the end of the day, this game ends 7-0, Crawly, right? So when you don't score, it wouldn't have mattered if they would have done a bullpen day or not. If you don't score, you don't win, or at least you very rarely win if you don't.
Right.
Score.
But it just kind of felt like they were out of this one from the beginning. And to me,
punched in the mouth early, and that was it.
Right. And you had Justin Steele, who pitched a complete game. So you had a full bullpen.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it was just kind of weird.
Colten Brewer, you could point your finger at Kyle Hendricks. And then the question is, what did the Cubs know and when did they actually know it? Right? Did Kyle tell Tommy? Did Kyle tell?
Yeah. Kyle
his
got
manager
treatment for it prior to it, so they knew.
Something.
He
was
got
up.
treatment. Yeah, they knew it wasn't right, and they decided he felt a little bit better. But they, I don't know. I might have just let the back rest. It's been a problem all year.
Correct.
I don't know. Anyway, you get Colten Brewer, who was first out of the pen, and it was a total disaster. He walked the first batter he faced. Then he gets the next batter, Willie Cahoon, to hit one right back to him. He's getting ready to start the double play, but he throws it to the third base side of Dansby. It's offline, goes into the outfield for an error. Now you got runners at the corner, no outs. Logan O'Hoppe single to make it 3-0. Ground out moves the runners to second and third, and Zach Neto hits a check swing single. It looked like it was catchable. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if just Bellinger just didn't get a good read on it or what. And then, so Calhoun, who was on third, he's on the bag thinking he might try to tag up, and he's a slow-footed guy, but Bellinger doesn't even throw home. So it makes it 4-0. I didn't get why he didn't try to throw him out.
Right. Should have tried. I mean, he could have at least tried.
Right. And so now runners again at the corner. Nito steals second, and then Tomas Nito's throw short hop Swanson, and O'Hoppe would score on that play to make it 5-0. Colten's Brewer is pulled going 2/3 of an inning. He gave up 3 runs, 2 hits, 2 walks. He hit a batter and committed an error. When he was pulled, he punched a wall in the dugout and broke his hand. We'll talk more about that in segment 3. Jorge Lopez gave up 1 run in the 4th, and Drew Smiley gave up a solo homer to Joe Adell to make it 7-0. Dustin, you brought up the idea that when your offense does nothing, it's hard to win. They were shut out on only 4 hits, did not draw a walk, no extra base hits, did not have a runner in scoring position until the 9th inning when Nico singled and reached second on a wild pitch before Seiya struck out to end the game. Tyler Anderson was 7-8 coming into this game. And remember, we said, he's not a strikeout pitcher. He went 8 innings of shutout ball, gave up only 3 hits, and had 10 Ks. How many times that happened, Dustin, where a non-strikeout pitcher, there's guys that are just ground ball pitchers. Marcus Stroman's a good example of one of them that just, or guys that, they let the ball get hit in the air a lot. My God, why does this team strike out so much?
Especially because they don't hit that many home runs, right? I mean, if they hit more home runs, you could say, okay, but no.
I just wish I had $1 for every time career high in strikeouts for the opposing pitcher against the Cubs. It's like, tie a season high. It's just every time. There's 12 strikeouts total. Patrick Wisdom, why he's batting in the 2-hole ever, I don't know. Go look at the numbers. When he's batting in like the top 2, he's batting like 190. He was 0 for 3. Bellinger and Suzuki 0 for 4. Happ, Swanson, and Nito were also 0 for 3. Just not a good day offensively.
No, not a good day offensively at all. Okay, so the series is even now at a game apiece, and not exactly a bullpen game, but a guy coming from the bullpen. Hayden Wesneski took the ball on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, and that may have been why they decided not to go with a bullpen game on Saturday. Hayden's been struggling, only going 3 or 4 innings, giving up multiple home runs. But you know what? Wesneski, pitched the best game so far of his season for himself. He went 6 1/3 innings of shutout ball. He gave up 1 hit in the first inning and then retired the next 17 Angels hitters in a row. He only had 1 walk and 2 strikeouts, so they put the ball in play, but right to the defenders. So, this was interesting, Dustin. On offense, I saw that Taylor McGregor put this tweet out here about Miguel Amaya. So this was on the 6th. This was on Saturday. She said, per Craig Counsell, they're intentionally giving Miguel Amaya extended time to work through some things offensively. Amaya's slashing 186, 249, 256. So Amaya hadn't started in a little while. Give him some time to work on offense. And boy, that was a relevant tweet by Taylor, because on Sunday, the Cubs got their first hit of the game in the 3rd on a leadoff single by Dansby Swanson, which ended an 0 for 23 slump for Swanson. Master Boney hit a weak grounder to shortstop Zach Neto. He looked towards second, but Dansby was sliding in. And by the time he looked at first, Master Boney had already reached. So now Miguel Amaya, like we said, working with the coaching staff on his offense, singled to put the Cubs up 1-0. But as we've also talked about, he was thrown out at second, trying to stretch that single into a double. Another out on the base pass for the Cubs. Nico would hit a sac fly to score Master Boney, and the Cubs lead was 2-0. The Cubs would add another run in the 5th when Miguel Amaya doubled a Nico Horner single to put runners at the corners, and Michael Busch grounded into a double play, but Amaya would score to make it 3-0. Speaking of Michael Busch, as the rain's fallen on Wrigley Field, Busch hits a 2-out homer. So Nico Horner was along for the ride there. His 11th homer of the season for Michael Busch, and the Cubs up 5-0. Dustin, he has truly been a bright spot for me on this team, Michael Busch.
Yeah, really, he deserves a little bit more credit than I've been willing to give him, because the Cubs overall have been so bad. But he is one of the top 5 statistically first baseman in the National League.
Yep. He's been doing really well. I think his defense has improved. He's developing. He's learning hitters. He's making adjustments. I think there's more pop in there, but I'm hoping that he is the answer to our first base prayers.
Well, let's hope. It's been a long time, right? They've been chasing that since Rizzo left.
Yep. Now, Porter Hodge came into the game after Wesneski. There was runners at second and third, 1 out. He did a great job stranding the runners. Then he pitched a 1-2-3-8. So Porter Hodge continuing to impress people. Luke Little came into the game with the Cubs leading 5-0 in the 9th, got the first 2 outs, but then loaded the bases on 2 singles and a walk. But Hector Neris came in and struck out Zach Neto, and the Cubs win 5-0, and they take the series from the Angels. So, Dustin, when we talked about the title of this episode, Too Little, Too Late for the Cubs, I don't know. They're roughly at the same place where they were last year around this time. July, you're starting to see guys getting hot. It's just, that question of whether you're buyers or sellers has to be answered soon. And I think when we look at the next road trip coming up against the Baltimore Orioles, we'll talk about that in segment 3. And then you have a 4-game series with
Your
the
favorite.
Cardinals.
Your favorite.
Well, at least, that wasn't scheduled. That was due to a rainout.
There's a makeup. There's a makeup in there. Right. There's a makeup
in there. But
it was a game that should have already been played that has not been played. So
correct. But you got 7 games coming up. I think, by this time next week, Dustin, we'll have an idea if this was too little, too late for the Cubs.
We can revisit that question and decide if it's really a question or a statement. I agree. By the time we do episode 57, I think we'll have a real better eye on what exactly is the Cubs' future. You're listening to the Fly the W670 episode 55, season 3, as you heard Crawly and I talking about. Too little, too late for the Cubs, question or answer. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Leave us one of those 5-star reviews. Why don't you email Crawly and I, flythew670@gmail.com. Let us know. Do you think that's a question or do you think that's a statement right now? Don't forget you can watch us as well on the 670 The Score YouTube page. In this segment, Crawly interviews Al Yellon, founder of Bleed Cubbie Blue and the author of a new Chicago Cubs book of first, the first players, moments, and records that were first in team history, a book that all Cub fans will find informative and entertaining.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, he is the founder, writer of Bleed Cubbie Blue. He is also the author of this new book, Chicago Cubs First. I'm happy to have on the show Al Yellon. Al, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Everything's good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have you. And I got to ask you, you are at all the Cubs games, sitting in the bleachers. And obviously all the work that you've done over the many, many years that Bleed Cubbie Blue has been a source of information for Cubs. What do you feel the vibe is right now with this 2024 team with the fan base? What are you kind of feeling when you're at the games and when you're reading comments from all your followers?
I know people are kind of weird about this team. I think this is a team, first of all, it's a team that came close to making the playoffs last year before they collapsed. Almost everybody's back. They added Shota Imanaga, who's been great. I think people want to like this team, but they just aren't doing many likable things. So it's kind of a weird vibe. They really they haven't won back-to-back games at home in a couple of weeks. And so, people want to sing the song, they want to see wins, and it's just not happening. Things just don't seem to be coming together.
And, part of me, I've been kicking this around and I'm like, okay, well, yes, injuries, but injuries happen with every team, but injuries obviously are a part of this, but it's just a lot of guys underperforming. And I think that's what really surprises me when you take a look at guys like Nico Horner. Say's starting to pick it up. A lot of these guys are starting to pick it up a little bit now here in July, but I'm just a little concerned it might be too little too late.
Well, they are just about at the same spot record-wise as they were a year ago, but you're right in terms of the underperformance. You see teams that have one or two guys underperform. I don't think I've ever seen a team like this that has so many guys who are like 100 OPS points below last year. A guy like Cody Bellinger, a year ago, he was on his way to being National League Player of the Month for July. Now it's just like he's there. He hasn't had a home run in over a month. So, what's going on here? I don't know whether it's coaching, whether it's the schedule, I can't figure this out.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of time to dissect this when this is over. I wonder how much of the coaching staff is going to be retained, because these are guys that Craig Counsell inherited, not guys that he chose around him. And they're all great guys, all of them, whether you talk about Dustin Kelly or whether, you talk about Tommy Hotovy, they're all great guys, but you just wonder how much a guy like Craig Counsell wants his own guys, his own choices around him. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens, but maybe the Cubs have another miracle in them like they do last season. Maybe they can get back in this thing. But, to me, it's not just about, winning series anymore, which is what you always want to do. But now they have to really kind of go on a run where they really start to stack some victories together in a row. Like you said, haven't had 3 in a row and God knows how long, haven't had back-to-back at home, but they have to go on like a 5, 6, 7 game win streak here.
Right. And, they're heading on a road trip to Baltimore and St. Louis. It's 7 games. They really have to win 5 of those 7 to even give any hope going forward. The issue that they have is in terms of buying and selling. I don't think they're going to win enough to maybe be a buyer, but everybody's underperforming. So who can they sell? Like I said, a year ago, Cody Bellinger was on his way to being National League Player of the Month in July. If they hadn't had that run at the end of the month, he probably would have been traded. Who's going to trade for Cody Bellinger now, especially with his performance being down? he's not going to opt out on that contract. Who's going to pay him $30 million next year? So whoever would trade for him is stuck with him for another year. Do they really want that? So, they're really kind of in a bind as to what to do, and the next week will tell us a lot.
Yeah, we already hear the rumors swirling, and man, oh man, it's one of those things that it's really tough because, like I think you said, everybody wants to like this team. Christopher Morels, Shota Imanaga, a lot of likable personalities, just not clicking, and for whatever reason, I just can't put my finger on the pulse of this team. That's really, I think, what it comes down to. Al, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is that you just came up with this new book right here. I got it right here, Chicago First, right? And it's your third book, correct?
Correct.
So I remember because I got a couple of your books on my bookshelf as well. You had the Cubs by the Numbers and A Season for the Ages. But this one to me was really an interesting read because it does such a good job of kind of interweaving the past and the present. So, it's not just like a straight up history lesson of the Cubs, pre 1900s or this and that. It literally kind of goes through kind of just these amazing baseball Cub moments and kind of ties them together with teams that everybody's familiar with, whether it's one of the World Series teams or Sammy Sosa or some of these other guys. What gave you the idea to do this book right here?
Well, that's exactly what I was hoping to do with this book. And to be honest with you, I was flattered the publisher of this book came to me. They asked me to do this. They're doing a series of these books. They're also doing Yankees, Red Sox, and Mets. And they asked me to do the Cubs book. So kind of diving into it, I didn't really want to do just a 19th century book because the Cubs go back to 1876. If you wanted to do every first of everything from the franchise, it'd be from the 19th century. And while those guys are definitely worth remembering, you have to look at the entire sweep, and we've got almost 150-year history now, the Cubs. In a couple of years, that will be 150 years. So that's what I try to do is tie the whole thing together. It's not really a narrative book because as you probably notice when you look through it, it's formatted in a series of trivia questions. And so you pose a question, give the answer, and then the key, I think, and the interesting parts of are the stories behind the answer, the personalities, how these things came to be. I mean, the first go all the way back to the very first game the team ever played. And there's a first in this book that was as recent as 2023. So it really does run the whole gamut of the entire Cubs franchise history.
And some of them are really fun, like unassisted triple plays and just rarities that you kind of think about. And you're like, okay, is there one thing that you kind of found in your research that really kind of surprised you? Because you obviously are a very knowledgeable Cub fan. You've done a lot of research, you put a lot of work into your website. But was there something that you kind of researched and you said to myself, oh my God, I had no idea. This absolutely blows me away.
Not exactly no idea, but while I was researching this book, one of the things that I was looking at was the construction of the bleachers and the iconic scoreboard from the 1930s that still exists, even with the video boards being built. And one thing I found as I was looking through this is that every time I came across a question of, when was the first day the W flag was ever flown above the scoreboard? And everything I read said that we don't know. So I thought, well, there's a challenge to put in this book is find the first day that the W flag ever flew above the scoreboard. And I was lucky enough to find some photos. One of them belonged to the Cubs, and they were gracious enough to give me permission to use it in the book. One of them belonged to the Chicago Tribune, and I worked out a deal with them to publish that photo. But the sequence of photos from the construction of the bleachers to the actual day, the first day the W flag flew over the scoreboard, and the photos prove the story. Of course, I'm not going to tell you here what that day is. You'll have to get the book to find out.
Absolutely. And it's that's the thing too, that I always kind of like, I'm a history buff as well, is that I like the old ballparks, kind of learning about some of the ballparks and just some of the ones that made me laugh were just kind of some of the crazy dimensions of the ballpark that kind of led to some of the home run records that were very early on, obviously. But just the different ballparks the Cubs played in and the history of some of those ballparks to me always kind of amazes me.
A lot of those ballparks, as you know, and Wrigley Field is kind of one of them also, is that they were built in a city grid, whatever city it was, and they kind of fit them into whatever land they had. So that's why, like, the Polo Grounds in New York were designed to be a polo grounds to play polo on. And when they redesigned them for baseball, it kind of got into a weird configuration where the right field wall was only about 250 feet from home plate. And then it went out in a very steep angle to well over 400 feet in the center field. And everybody was talking about this when Willie Mays died a couple of weeks ago. That great catch he made in the 1954 World Series, and that was like 450 feet from home plate. No ballpark today was have dimensions like that. But one of the first in the book is a guy who hit his very first home run in the Polo Grounds, and that ball might have only gone 260 feet.
Right. And so, the interesting thing, because the Cubs have such a long history, to me, is that and there's always first just happening. I mean, we just came off the weekend where we had Beth Mowins and Elise Menaker and Taylor McGregor having the first all-female broadcast. I mean, literally, it's like after 150 years, you would think there'd be no more history or no more things happening, but it just seems like there's always kind of something unique going on. And to me, like, one of the things I like to do when I read the book was just kind of be like, okay, I had no idea these people existed. But if, like, let's say we're talking about a cycle, right? Who's, the first Cub to hit for a cycle. But then, like I said, you kind of add the other names. And then as you start to go on, then you get into the players that you kind of remember in your childhood, whether you were a fan in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on, and just still hard to believe that Mark Grace last to hit for the cycle. But those are the type of things, like, if you like the Cubs and you like history and you like trivia, I think that's why this book really kind of speaks to a lot of different Cub fans.
And that's one of the things I really tried to touch on. I mean, there's plenty of stories about guys like Ernie Banks and Ryan Sandberg and people, who everybody knows. But the Cubs franchise is much more than that. It's guys who maybe made a bid appearance, they did something special, and maybe nobody remembers them today, but in the book, you'll remember them because they're honored in this book. I'll give you one example that you can read about. Is the first Cub to hit a pinch hit home run was a guy named Charles Tolson. He only played a couple of years for the Cubs in the 1920s. He did actually play in the 1929 World Series, so he had that. But 100 years later, who remembers him? Now you will, because he's in this book. And if I had put this book out a year later, that all-female broadcast probably would have made it as part of the book.
Right. That's the fun thing about it. Now, you've gotten to go to different book signings and doing that, and you do have a book signing coming up. So you can get this book on Amazon. You can go to your local bookstore. You can go anywhere. But you are going to be having an appearance Thursday, July 18th, at 3 Avenues Bookshop, 3009 North Southport Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60657 at 6 p.m. And you can get the book there. And not only that, you'd be able to get it signed, correct?
Correct.
So that's the fun thing, Al. And it's like I said, great book. And then Bleed Cubbie Blue is where all of your work is there. And that's been going on since how long now? It's going to be
20 years next February, and that's crazy. Where did 20 years go? But it's been a real rewarding ride. Met a lot of people, made some actual real good friends from just writing there, and it's led to the 3 books that I've done, that's really been a reward in itself. So it's kind of, I call it living the dream, being a Cubs fan for my whole life, and then being able to turn it into work that's rewarding on every level to me. I just wish they win a little more often, but so do we all.
And the one thing I also enjoy is just the different writers, whether, in the past or even present, just there's different writers that kind of have different voices. So that's why I like to go to Bleed Cubbie Blue is to kind of see whether it's Sarah Sanchez or even going old school. You know what I mean? When Danny Rocca was on, I used to laugh at some of his adventures, and it's just different writers have different voices and give you different perspectives. And I think that's what I enjoy about going to Bleed Cubbie Blue.
Right. And I've got Josh Timmers covers the Cubs minor league system, which he's much more knowledgeable about that than I am. And that's a way of getting coverage of the entire Cubs system and everything regarding Cubs, so that it's not necessarily just my one perspective.
So, Al, if you had one more thing to say to all the people listening right now as far as this 2024 Cubs team, what recommendation, what advice, what would you say to Cub fans right now as we sit here right before the big series with Baltimore?
I just hang in there for another week and see what happens. If this road trip turns out to be a bust, well, then maybe they'll see if they can sell anybody. But there may not be too many takers because, again, if they're not playing well, who's going to take these guys? On the other hand, if they have a good week, maybe they can sneak back into wild card contention.
Yeah, luckily they play in the NL, and luckily that's still, anybody. It's just a big mess at the bottom there. The book is called Chicago Cubs First. Author Yellon. You can find his work at Bleed Cubbie Blue on all the socials, on Facebook, on Twitter. Bleed Cubbie Blue. Al, I appreciate so much you jumping on. And again, everybody should head over to that book signing and head over there, get your copy, and get it signed by Al, and he'll answer any questions you may have.
Thanks for having me.
This is the Fly the W670 podcast. It is segment 3 of episode 55 in season 3. Too little, too late for the Cubs? Question or answer. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Leave Crawly and I one of those 5-star reviews, and you can email us at flythew670@gmail.com. Don't forget you can see it. Yep, you can see this podcast happening with the Score YouTube page. All right, Crawly, with Monday off as we're recording this, where do the Cubs sit in the standings?
Not good. Milwaukee in first, 53-38. They continue to win, continue to find ways to win. St. Louis 47-42. They're 5 games back. Pittsburgh 42-47. They're 10 games back. Cincinnati 42-48, 10.5 games back. And then in last place, a half a game behind the Reds, the Cubs are 42-49 with 11. They are 11 games back, Dustin.
Well, at one point it was 12.5, right? Do you mind, if you don't mind throwing that back up again, if you can, Crawly? And something, if you've been a fan of this podcast, and I'm sure if you're watching and listening, you are. But, for a while, you and I were kind of high-fiving about the St. Louis Cardinals being where the Cubs are, and the Cubs were where the Cardinals were, right? So they've basically flip-flopped positions. So this is what's still giving me hope. You can take it down now if you want, Crawly, but there's a chance, right? I mean, the Cardinals were playing so bad, and the Cubs were playing pretty good, and now the Cubs have been playing so bad, and the Cardinals have been playing pretty good. My point is that there's still a lot of season left, and maybe using the Cardinals as an example, things can change.
Yeah, you'd like to see. I mean, I don't even remember the last time the Cubs won 3 in a row. I predicted it. I think I said I thought the Cubs were going to win 2 out of 3, and I thought they were going to win 3 in a row and lose the Wesneski start. Didn't happen. But here's when we talk about the too little, too late, Dustin. It can't be about winning series anymore. That's not good enough to take 2 out of 3. You're going to have to go on some sort of run where you snap.
Yeah, you got to find a sweep. You got to find a 6 or 7 game winning streak in there.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's there right now against the Orioles and against the Cardinals, but you can, it's a possibility, you can still win those series.
That's what you're going to want to do. We did get some good news. As we predicted, Shota Imanaga was the lone Cubs all-star representative. Shota was told by his manager in front of the team, and Shota, God, he's just such an animated guy, but he said, I really am going to stick my chest out and represent the Chicago Cubs well. Some interesting notes here that, I found on Twitter here. This is from Marquee. This is talking about MLB rookie pitchers born in Japan to make an all-star. That was 1995, Hideo Nomo. 2007, the Red Sox had Hideki Ojojima. 2012, Yu Darvish for the Rangers. 2014, Masahiro Tanaka from the Yankees. And then last year, Kodai Senga. So Shota joins that list. And when you're thinking about Cubs making it right here, Christopher Kompka, C. Kompka on Twitter, he said MLB debut and all-star selection in the same season Cubs history. 1952, Toby Atwell. 2008, Kosuke Fukudome. 2015, Chris Bryant. And 2024, Shota Imanaga. Dustin, if you look out there, there's video of that the Cubs put out of Craig Counsell announcing Shota's all-star selection. And it was funny because he kind of brought up both points of the argument over whether Shota's really a rookie, because Craig said not a rookie in a way that he has experience and he's accomplished a lot in the game, but culturally and in this league, a rookie. So I thought it was interesting because he kind of played both sides of the coin on that one.
Now, that's one of my favorites, and we'll just leave it at he's not a rookie. Anyway, moving forward, congratulations to Shota. I'm happy for him. I'd rather see a pitcher than our position players go anyway at this point. So I'm glad that's, all these guys need to get off their feet for a while, clear their minds, get back at it, in 2 weeks from now, basically. But let's move on to some bad news we got.
Yep, some roster moves. Injury report. Colten Brewer, as we discussed in segment 1, was placed on the 60-day IL after he fractured his left hand punching the dugout wall. Colten talked to reporters the next day. He said, emotions just get the best of us sometimes. What comes to my mind the most is letting my family down, friends, teammates, the people of Wrigleyville. It's kind of heartbreaking for me right now. Dustin, I don't know. Again, you're a pitcher. I can't believe, I mean, I don't know if you have to be told this, but as of right now, the wall remains undefeated. You're not going to hurt the wall. All you're going to do is
father time in the wall, huh? Undefeated.
father time in the wall. If you're punching the wall will win every time. And I remember that movie Bull Durham where he punches Kevin Costner. That was Tim Robbins' character. And he said, "You didn't punch me with your pitching hand," which luckily Colten Brewer didn't injure his pitching hand. But again, he's out 60 days. It's just, come on, man. I mean, throw the Gatorade thing, throw some bats, do something. But Jesus, don't punch a wall. You use your head. I don't know.
Did you hear what Jason Kipnis had to say about this? Did you hear that?
No, did he? But I did get a lot of people replying about it. Might have been a smart move.
Well, that's kind of, I guess, where Kipnis was going. Kind of a little, what's a conspiracy theory, if you will, right? So he said that by getting on that, 60-day IL, that he's increasing Major League Baseball professional pay. He's, getting extended time as a player. So, as getting hurt at the big league level, he continues to get paid as a big leaguer and continues to earn service time as a big leaguer. So maybe he did it maybe on purpose.
Well, I don't know, but either way, he's now on the 60-day IL. But this is interesting because right-handed pitcher reliever Hunter Biggie is going to be coming up. So we're going to have a little and a big in the lineup.
Biggie time.
So this is going to be interesting because Biggie had a left oblique injury to start the season, but since coming back, he has a .77 ERA with 19 strikeouts, 6 walks, and only 2 hits in 11 2/3 innings for the Iowa Cubs. His fastball, Dustin, averages 98 mile per hour. And so for me, super exciting. I mean, obviously you don't want anyone to get injured, but this is a guy, for those of you that know our friend Alex Cohen, the voice of the AAA Cubs, super high on Hunter Biggie as well, thinks he's going to stay a long time. That is going to be interesting because if it's one thing the Cubs lack, it's guys that throw heat. And so when you think about having Hunter Biggie, who throws 98, Luke Little throws pretty hard as well. And then you're going to have Julian Merriweather hopefully coming back very soon. You might have 3 guys that can throw it up in the upper 90s. So that would be exciting.
Yeah, swing and miss stuff is not exactly what's been coming out of the Cubs bullpen of late. We talked about Kyle Hendricks earlier in segment 1, but add Pete Crow Armstrong to the day-to-day mix.
Yep, they both Hendricks with the lower back that caused him to get pulled on Saturday, and PCA has missed 4 straight games after getting spiked in the hand by Whit Merrifield stealing third base. He hasn't started since then, so he's missed 4 straight starts. So I guess there's a little swelling too. So we'll see what happens. Javier Assad is expected to return to the Cubs before the All-Star break. He threw a bullpen session on July 5th. He's going to throw another one in Baltimore on July 9th. And as I mentioned, Julian Merriweather threw live BP on Saturday, and he's going to be headed to South Bend to visit our friends, Brendan King, Max Toma, Chris Hagstrom down in South Bend, Indiana. So go to Four Winds Field if you want to see Julian Merriweather, because he's going to be starting rehab work.
Is that going to get you back out there or what?
It might, man. It doesn't take much to get me out to South Bend. It's a good time over there.
Yeah, very good. All right, moving on. Kyle Hendricks, Pete Crow Armstrong, day-to-day, Javier Assad, Julian Merriweather. That's good news. So, the pitching staff is going to get a little bit of help. And I'm guessing we're going to know by tomorrow, Tuesday, whether or not PCA is going to have to go on the injured list or if he's going to be available, because you can't just have him hanging around if he's not going to be able to play. Let's move on to the game on Tuesday, and that is the Cubs out in Baltimore taking on the Orioles.
Yeah, after many, many bad seasons, the Orioles have been building that farm system, and it finally broke through last season. They finished in first place in the AL East with a record of 101 wins and 61 losses. They made the playoffs for the first time since 2016 and clinched the division title for the first time since 2014. It's the first time, Dustin, they won 100 or more games since 1980. So I was 4 years old. Unfortunately, their season came to a surprising end when they were upset by the eventual World Series champion Texas Rangers in the ALDS. They were swept in 3 games. But Dustin, despite all those successes last season, the Cubs took 2 out of 3 against Baltimore at Wrigley Field at the beginning of that Cubs run. Remember, they got swept by the Angels, and then all of a sudden they started to go on a run in mid-June last year. The Cubs took 2 out of 3 from them. Both Hendricks and Steele pitched 6 innings in the Cubs' victory, but Baltimore got to Jamison Tyone and beat the Cubs in the finale to avoid the sweep. In the offseason, they made 2 key acquisitions. They're a very young team with a lot of homegrown talent, but they traded to pick up Milwaukee Brewers ace Corbin Burnes and then added former Cubs closer Craig Kimbrell, who's also somehow having a good season. Kyle Gibson, Aaron Hicks, and Adam Frazier are no longer on the team. Now, this year, Dustin, the Orioles are 57-33. They're in first place in the AL East. They have won at least 17 games each month for the first 3 months. They won each of their last 3 series. They just took 2 out of 3 from Oakland, but they got their butts kicked on Sunday. That was a shocker. But the Orioles are 29-17 at home and 28-16 on the road. So it doesn't matter where you play them. They are a dangerous team.
Yes, they are. They're good. They took a long time with their rebuild, right? They took it's been a long time. Plus, they play in a really tough division, but they're the type of team that it looks like they're put together to last a little bit. Love it. A little sound effect now. We've got some tail of the tape.
Tail of the tape. Cubs versus Baltimore. Bad this year. This is very one-sided, Dustin. Orioles have the advantage in batting average. They hit as a team 256. That's 5th best in baseball, while the Cubs are hitting 229, 26th in baseball. In slug, this is where the Orioles will get you. They are the best slugging team in baseball with an average of 460 slug, while the Cubs are 25th at 369. So almost 100 full points higher. Runners in scoring position, the Orioles are 14th at 259, while the Cubs are 28th at 222. Starting pitching ERA, the Orioles have that, 2nd in all of baseball, 3.43 ERA for their starters, while the Cubs are 9th at 3.73. While the relievers, the Orioles are 13th at 3.80. Cubs are slowly moving up, though. They're at 19th in baseball, but at a time they were 24th, 25th. So they're 19th.
Moving in the right direction, at least, right? We'll take it.
Same with the DRS, the defensive runs saved and fielding. The Orioles get that edge. They're 9th in baseball with 23 runs saved, while the Cubs are at -4. They're 22nd. But again, there was a time where they were double digits negative runs saved. So hopefully moving in the right direction. But you could see that the Orioles are definitely have the edge or advantage on the Cubs in every single category.
Basically, yes, they do. Yes, they do. Pitching probables, game 1. It's the Cubs all-star Shota Imanaga.
Yep, left-hander Shota Imanaga versus right-hander Dean Kremer. Just remember that this is going to be 5:35 start on the East Coast.
5:35. Wow.
You got to be loving these, Dustin. Shota Imanaga is 7-2 with the 3.16 ERA and 16 games started with 92 strikeouts and 91 innings pitched. Shota's given up 3 runs in each of his last 2 starts on 6/27 against the Giants and on July 3rd against the Phillies. Shota has never faced the Phillies before. They've never seen him. So this is going to, or I'm sorry, not the Phillies, but the Orioles. So this ought to be interesting. Dean Kremer is a 28-year-old righty who is 4-4, 3.93 ERA and 10 games started with 57 strikeouts and 55 innings. He was on the IL list, Dustin. He was put on there May 24th, and he was just activated on July 3rd. So he's had 1 start since coming back on July 3rd against the Mariners. But it was a pretty good start. He pitched 5 scoreless innings, gave up 2 hits, 2 walks, and 8 Ks. So Kremer is 1-0 lifetime against the Cubs with a 1.80 ERA and 1 start. No one on the Cubs has more than 3 bats against Kremer, who features a 4-seam fastball, a cutter, a split finger, and a sinker.
Game number 2. This is going to be on Wednesday night.
Yep, Jameson Taillon versus right-handed pitcher Corbin Burnes, another 5:30 start. Taillon is 5-4 with a 2.99 ERA and 14 games started with 65 strikeouts and 81 1/3 innings pitched. Jameson has had a strong season. You're hearing his name in trade rumors. Really strong month of June. He had a great start again on Thursday against a really good Phillies team, pitching 7 innings and giving up only 2 runs. Jamo's 1-0 with a 4.59 ERA and 7 starts against the Orioles. He better look out for Austin Hayes, who's 8 for 14 against Taillon. Anthony Santander's 3 for 15, and Ryan O'Hearn 3 for 13. So, it's I think it's going to be pretty interesting on that one.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about that. And then we move into the third game.
We got Corbin Burnes, though.
Oh, sorry. Corbin Burnes. Sorry.
He is 9-3 with a 2.32 ERA in 18 games started with 105 strikeouts.
Wow.
In 112 2/3 innings pitched. He's exactly as advertised. He has not had a single month this season with an ERA higher than 2.76.
Sheesh.
So in his last start against the Mariners, he pitched 6 innings and gave up 2 runs on 4 hits. Burns has faced the Cubs plenty in his career during his time with Milwaukee, going 2-4 with a 3.26 ERA in 16 games. 10 of those as a starter. Ian Happ has seen Burns the most. He's gone 7-24 against Burns. Dansby's 10 for 17. Bellinger 3 for 18 and Nico 3 for 14. You know that Burns throws a cutter, curveball, and slider.
All right, now game number 3. This is going to be Thursday evening. Again, a 5:35 first pitch, and arguably the Cubs ace, or at least their second best pitcher, Justin Steele, takes the ball.
Yeah, you got a nice 1-2 combo with Justin and Shota right now versus right-handed pitcher Albert Suarez. Steele is 1-3 with a 2.95 ERA in 13 games with 77 strikeouts and 79 in a third innings pitch. He finally picked up his first win of the season against the Angels, but we've talked about him being a victim of poor defense and poor run support. Justin is 1-1 against the Orioles lifetime with a 4.09 ERA in 2 games started. No one on the Orioles has more than 6 at-bats against Justin. So a lot of these guys, I mean, obviously these two teams haven't seen each other other than Jameson Taillon, who used to pitch, and then Corbin Burns at game 2 especially. You start to see a lot of those guys that have faced each other in the past. But Albert Suarez is a 34-year-old righty with a 5-2, who is 5-2 with a 2.48 ERA in 18 games. 11 of those starts with 51 strikeouts in 65 in the third innings. Suarez was called up by the Orioles on April 17th. He made 3 starts. Then he pitched in the bullpen in most of May before returning to the rotation at the end of May. So he's basically been like the swing man for this team, similar to Javier Assad. 3 starts ago, he gave up 5 runs on 10 hits against the Astros, but he bounced back in his next 2 starts, giving up no runs in 6 innings against the Rangers and 2 runs in 6 innings against the Oakland Athletics. Again, both of those teams, the Rangers having a disappointing season, the A's last place in the AL West. So Suarez has faced the Cubs twice in his career, going 0-for-1 in 2 games, 1 as a starter, 1 as a reliever, and only Dansby Swanson has at-bats against Suarez, who throws a 4-seam fastball, a cutter, and a changeup.
All right, very good. Go ahead.
That'll take us to the hots and knots here, Dustin.
Hots and knots, buddy. Hots and knots, and I know who's on the hot list for sure after that weekend.
Yep, Ian Happ is still on the hot list. 8 for 20 with 2 doubles, 2 homers, and 8 RBIs. He's slashing 400, 478, 800 in the last week. Michael Busch is up there, 6 for his last 18 with a home run, 2 RBIs, slashing 333, 400, 611. On the not list, you can put Christopher Morel on there. He's 4 for his last 19, no home runs, 1 RBI, 10 strikeouts to no walks, slashing 211, 250, 263. Just gets you nervous. You're just not seeing any power from him anymore, and that's supposed to be his value. And then Dansby Swanson is 1 for his last 1. 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, slashing 048, 130, 048. I mean, just absolutely awful.
Yeah, it is bad. Real bad. All right, who do the Cub fans need to look out for on the other side of town with the Orioles?
The Orioles are a really good team. Be careful of their young stud, Gunnar Henderson, 9 for his last 25 with a homer, 3 RBI, slashing 360, 385, 600. Another young stud that they got, Anthony Santander, is 7 for his last 23 with a homer and 2 RBIs, slashing 304, 333, and 478. On the not for them, there's some surprising names here. Ryan Mountcastle is 3 for his last 17 with 1 home run and 2 RBIs, slashing 176, 222, and 363. While their catching stud, Adley Rutschman, is struggling. He's a little slumped, 2 for his last 19 with 1 home run and 4 RBIs, slashing 105, 261, 263. So let's hope he stays cold.
See, it's hard to make that jump. I mean, Adley Rutschman, one of the biggest prospects in forever, and you're seeing that guy struggle for all the people that are, down and out on PCA. All right, prediction time, Crawly. I think we both had 2 out of 3 in the last one, based on who was pitching and based on how the Cubs offense had been. So we were both right for once. Shocking. You go first this time.
Oh boy, I'm going to have to go with the Cubs are going to, but here's what I'm going to tell you. I like who the Cubs have lined up. If you had your 3 best starters for the Cubs this year lined up, that's who you got going, right? You when you're talking about Shota, when you're talking about Taillon, and you're talking about Steele, all of them have had great series. That's who you'd line up in this series if you could. But I just cannot look at the tail of the tape and see the Orioles just absolutely, it's not like the Orioles are coming in here struggling. They've been winning way more than the Cubs have been winning. So, I mean, logically, I just cannot put the Cubs ahead there. So I'm going to have the Cubs taking 1 out of 3. I think any one of those starters the Cubs have could maybe take a game there, but that's going to be really hard to take 2
All
out of
right,
3.
because of the pitching matchups, I am saying the Cubs are going to take 2 out of 3, Crawly. 2 out of 3. They're going to lose that middle game. No offense, Jameson Taillon, but that guy is going to shut the Cubs down in game number 2. So Crawly says 1 and 3. I say 2 out of 3. That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on the socials. Follow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email Crawly and I, flythew670gmail.com. And we're asking you, is this too little too late for the Cubs? Question or is it answer? And you can watch us by subscribing to 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, have a great start to the week after the 4th of July, the week ahead of the All-Star break, and we'll talk again Thursday or Friday.
Yep, and absolutely, Cub fans, now is not the time to give up hope. Let's hope that they can surprise all of us, take 2 out of 3. You get those nice East Coast starts so you can get to bed at a decent hour before you go to work so you can all cheer on the Cubs. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!